Thanks, Shirley, for doing this interview with me today. I'm really excited to talk to you about your career as a wildland firefighter. So, first of all, tell me a little bit about your career and how it relates to climate change.
The reason that I got into fire in the first place at my high school, I was doing a forest ecology research program, and I did this final paper about like bushfire burning and the effects of anthropogenic logging versus anthropogenic fire. And anthropogenic just means like man created. And it was a really clear conclusion that fire had like benefits to the ecosystem. And in my conclusion, I wrote that like people should do more prescribed burning. And I was like, okay, well, go do it yourself. And so I got on a crew last year. It was a Type 6 engine in Trout Creek, Montana, and did that for a summer. Then went to school. And for this season, I'm in McLeod, California, and I'm on a Type 3 engine as a permanent GS4. So that's kind of my fire background. I also did this program, which really is geared towards like women who are interested in getting into the field. The Forest Service puts on this like women in welfare program, and it's like a 2 week long kind of boot camp thing, and it will get you all of your like really base qualifications and kind of give you a little look into what the job is like, and they'll give you connections. And so, if you're a gal and you're kind of interested in going into this line of work, like that can be really intimidating because it is very male dominated, and it's a great program. You can complete it and at the end be like, it's not for me. And like everyone will still support you. So that was really cool. And then I'd recommend it to any gal who is possibly interested in it.
Well, that's awesome. That's really cool. So you went straight from high school into doing this work, is that right?
Yeah, I actually did that little program before my senior year in high school.
Oh, how cool. So you were totally set up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what challenges like have you faced so far in your career and kind of working in that field, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, it's challenging. I think, if you were to divide the two challenges in being a forestry technician, like I specifically work with the Forest Service, like it's a mental challenge and a physical challenge. So I guess I can speak easier on like the physical challenge aspect is like, during your off season, like you have to be doing physical training. Like there's no way to have a good season if you're not physically fit beforehand. And so that's something I lightly struggled with my first season. And so leading up to this season, I like made sure to be going to the gym like almost every other day throughout the whole school year. And like it's a big commitment, but the turnout is like really favorable because like it like eases a lot of anxiety like when you're doing PT stuff like with your crew, like knowing that you put in that extra work like kind of relieves a lot of stress of like, am I good enough? Because like women have a tendency to maybe be like a little bit less strong than men because they have to like work twice as hard. And I know that that can be like debated, but for personally, my experience, I have to work at least twice as hard to be anywhere close to their physical standards. So that's definitely a physical challenge that I've experienced. And then, like, if you go on an assignment and you're working 16-hour days for 2 weeks straight, like, that can be pretty physically challenging for your body. And so, like, kind of knowing how you react to that much stress is also good so that you're not just like jumping feet first into a job that might break you. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. And then being a gal in fire, there's kind of moving on to the more mental challenges. Like, being a gal, like, you're gonna have a lot of like challenges to face because personally and just like with other people, um, like you will be looked down on. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, and you do have to work extra hard. And so like having the mental strength to like wake up and understand that like if someone says that you're not strong enough or someone thinks that you don't have what it takes to like move up in this career, like to kind of ignore that and be able to like look at yourself in the mirror and be like, you are strong, you can do this, like you have everything, if not more, than a dude or anyone else in fire. Like we all have something to bring to the table in this career, and that can be a big mental kind of adversity to overcome. And then another mental challenge is just like you work a lot. And even if you're not like physically working, like the overtime hours will catch up to you. And so kind of having a really healthy mentality of like wanting to do the job and like being okay with random changes. Like this week we worked like at least 2 hours of overtime every day. And then I was gone for a couple of days, but my crew worked 3 24-hour shifts in a row and then continued the work week. Like
Wow.
I was definitely more of a mental challenge than a physical challenge. And so like I truly believe that any person, woman, man, anything in between, like has what it takes to like be able to overcome that. It's just like it depends on you and if you kind of want it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate your candor, and I do feel like, I'm in a pretty like I work in academia, and I will say I do also feel like I have to work twice as hard sometimes.
I think all across the board, honestly.
Yeah. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
Well, this is my last question for you. So, given the sometimes discouraging aspect of working in the climate field and especially working so close to danger in your case, what gives you hope? What gives you hope for the future?
Well, if I'm being honest, a lot of things give me hope for the future, especially in this line of work. It's no surprise that like every summer in the news, there's this new location, typically in North America, that's like, oh my God, it's burning and we don't really know what to do. Like summer 2023, it was Canada, and earlier this season, it was kind of Arizona, New Mexico. And I think kind of the biggest thing that will and does give me hope is like, and I'll speak for the United States because I haven't lived anywhere else and done the work, but the indigenous practices, like, I guess I'll kind of explain it to the best that I can. Um, these like big wildfires are technically natural and they would happen like every decade or every century and they just completely wipe out an ecosystem and then they would regenerate. And the indigenous were really intelligent and they learned how to manage land in a really like reciprocal, I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah, yeah. In reciprocity, I guess we could say.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And, they kind of learned that doing like prescribed burning would help mitigate these big wildfires. And then the burning also would help the ecosystem. And so it was a win-win situation for these indigenous tribes and the ecosystem. Sadly, among many other things, when the colonists came over, like they had this relationship with fire that was considered like in connection to like the devil, and among other things, we were not kind to say the least. And so, among many other things, stopped like the indigenous from doing these prescribed burns. Other kind of events happened throughout the history of the U.S. that led to people trying to mitigate as much fire as possible. And because of that, we have this like overgrown of fuels that are just ready to burn, especially with these hotter and drier temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
What gives me hope is that we're really starting to realize that the indigenous, like, they knew their shit. And I think we're starting to realize that. And the more that we can, like, listen to that and learn from them, I think is, if not the only way to solve this problem. And that might be, like, seem like almost impossible, but I feel extremely grateful and hopeful because, like, these people had this practice, like, millennia. And once we start incorporating that into our practices, like in federal agencies and state agencies, like I think we're going to see a turnaround, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, it makes sense to me. I think that's really insightful and really true. That's giving me hope just talking to you about it.
Yeah, it's a full fix to this problem that we have.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, thank you again for taking the time to talk with me today, and I really appreciate kind of letting everybody know what your experience has been like. I think it'll be really helpful for folks to hear.
Yeah, totally.